screen.
Police are here. Police are here. What are the police doing here?
The legal drama for Andrew and Tristan Tate continues as they have been arrested yet again in Romania on sex trafficking allegations. What this means for the brothers who are already facing criminal charges, we discuss with international lawyer David Tafuri. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Andrew Tate, the 37-year-old former kickboxer, self-described misogynist, controversial social media influencer. He has almost 10 million followers on X. Self-help guru. He is back in the news. A Romanian judge has placed him on house arrest after authorities in that country raided the home that he shared with his younger brother, 36-year-old Tristan. And Tristan, by the way, has been placed under judicial control. Both of these conditions for both brothers are for 30 days. Now, they were first detained for 24 hours before they were released on these conditions. And this is pursuant to new allegations, including human trafficking of minors, sexual assault of a minor, money laundering. Emphasis on new, by the way, because as we've reported extensively here on Sidebar previously, the Tate brothers have already been charged last year in Romania with human trafficking, rape, creating a criminal enterprise that targets women for sexual exploitation. But in terms of the current raid, what we're talking about now, it is being reported that 4 properties in total were raided by Tate. This is the Romanian agency that's focused on organized crime, and that 6 people, including the Tates, were taken into custody. Now, authorities also reportedly seized cash, laptops, data storage units, and this agency announced that 2 of the suspects allegedly used the lover boy method to sexually exploit 34 victims into making adult videos for profit, and that 1 of the suspects raped a 15-year-old. Now, after the brothers were released, they jumped on this live stream to lambast the investigation and the government's actions.
They try and put you in jail for something you did not do. I warned everybody at home they were going to do this to us before our first arrest. 3 years later, they are still trying. Third life is they kill you.
I'm now not allowed to talk to my own daughter and her mother. This file may take 3+ years, and they've successfully stolen my daughter from me.
This is now a matter of life and death. You can't just be a law-abiding citizen anymore. The government will destroy you if you do not have money for legal fees, if you do not have good friends and the ability to tell the truth and combat mainstream media narratives.
Hey, so we really appreciate you coming to us for our coverage of the Andrew Tate saga. And when you come to us here at Sidebar, you don't just get a breakdown of the cases that we cover. You also get an opportunity to hear about some of our partners who provide services that you might really like. So, for example, we have Upside, the sponsor of this episode. This is a free app that gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas and groceries. So when I pump my gas, if I use Upside, I may be able to get cash back, real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you can transfer straight into your bank account. So once you have the Upside app, you claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside at all different kinds of places like Shell, 7-Eleven, Taco Bell. You pay as usual using a debit or credit card. You follow the steps on the app and you get paid. So to find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen and use our promo code SIDEBAR and you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Okay, so let's discuss all of this right now with international lawyer David Tafuri. David, good to see you. Thanks for coming here on Sidebar.
Thanks for having me back.
Now, for those of you who don't know, David has read every one of the books in his background, which is why we have him here, because he's very well versed, he's very knowledgeable. Your reaction to this latest development?
Well, Andrew Tate and his brother are provocateurs, and they're engaged in these sketchy businesses. And so I'm not surprised that once the authorities in Romania started looking at him and his brother, that they found other things that were worrisome, potentially criminal in nature. Of course, because they've been in the news so much, it's also likely that more people who have interacted with them, more of the women who have interacted with them had bad experiences, might come forward. Victims are more willing to come forward once charges are pressed against a potential criminal, a defendant, and they see that other victims were courageous enough to come forward. As you noted, there was already a case pending against him in Romania. He's supposed to go to trial very soon on that. There are also charges pending against him in the UK,
Correct.
Where he is from. And ironically, he chose to go to Romania because he thought it would be a place that would be more willing to accept his behavior and less likely to prosecute him for such behavior. So the charges have followed him. The criminal, the criminal vulnerability has followed him to Romania.
No, well, those are the allegations, right? We don't know for sure. He hasn't been found guilty. But I will ask you about Romanian law here, because my understanding is these aren't new charges, right? He hasn't officially been charged in relation to what he was just raided with. But my understanding is under Romanian law, they can investigate you, they can detain you, they can place you under house arrest even without charges, right?
Yes. So Romania is a civil law system. The criminal process goes very differently from a common law system like the system we have in the US or the UK. There's usually a investigatory judge who's responsible for investigating a case when charges have been brought forward. And that investigatory judge has wider powers than a prosecutor would in our system to investigate, to bring the person in, to hold the person, somewhat differently from the common law system.
Here's the part I just want to clarify. How long can this investigation go? What I mean by that is Andrew Tate, I believe, is on house arrest for 30 days. His brother Tristan's on judicial control for 30 days. But this investigation, it doesn't have to be wrapped up in 30 days. It can be longer, right? And do they just then continue to detain them until they find something? Every time there's an event that happens, they go back, they detain them? Or does this investigation last for a period of time? Are there any kind of time limits put on it? And again, if you don't know the answer to this, I totally understand.
Yeah, I don't know the specific deadlines and under the procedural aspects of Romanian criminal law, but my understanding is that 30 days is a very short period, and it can be extended if evidence is found to support the allegations. These are the new allegations being investigated.
But they're not charges. They haven't been officially charged yet. And so that's why it's so different for us, right? Usually someone is charged and then they're either detained, they're held without bail, or they're, there's a trial date set, there's a process. It's not like they're just investigated and their liberties are taken away, which is so interesting to hear this. But by the way, what is judicial control? So we know what house arrest is for Andrew Tate. What is judicial control for Tristan?
Right. Judicial control, which is a less restrictive measure, is what Tristan is under. And that just means basically he cannot leave Romania and he has to check in with a judge, similar to having a probational official monitor your whereabouts and your activity.
So were you surprised, by the way, that the judge had agreed to judicial control and house arrest when the brothers were first arrested in December of 2022 on the current charges that they faced? They spent 3 months in detention, 3 months in jail, and they fought against that, but it kept being extended and extended and extended until they were put on house arrest. Are you surprised the judge said, no, here, detention's not warranted?
I think part of the reason the judge made that decision is because the brothers have followed the restrictions that have been put on them. They have not attempted to flee Romania. And so there's a good behavior aspect to this. And that's why they were given judicial control and house arrest rather than detention.
You think it was also the PR of it? I know courts aren't supposed to look at that, but very high profile individuals. They say they've been wrongfully accused. They're making a lot of accusations against the Romanian government. So do you think that, in order to make this look like a non-biased investigation, that the court system is not corrupt, that this isn't just an action against the Tates because they're Tates, but this is a real legitimate investigation, that the court said, you know what, maybe, like you said, they've been following all the rules so far, no need to add more drama or controversy by locking them up?
I think that's absolutely an element of it. Remember, Romania isn't a country that gets a lot of attention for its judicial system. It's not often in the news. And the brothers have millions of followers. And so there's a microscope, not just on the brothers, but there's a microscope on Romania, on the Romanian judicial system. Remember, they went to Romania because they thought it would be a permissive environment to engage in this sexual behavior, sexual business. And so Romania is being tested. Can they handle this appropriately in conformance with international standards, in conformance which is of what is expected of them as following rule of law, as being part of the EU. So yes, it's also part of the reason they want to do this correctly. They don't want to be criticized by either side. They don't want to be criticized as being too harsh or being too lenient.
And just to be fair to the Tates here, we don't know definitively that they went to Romania to commit crimes. I hear what you're saying, but these are allegations, and I hear your point. But just want to give them that side
actually,
as well.
Andrew Tate said publicly, I am going to Romania. When he was facing investigation in the UK, he said, I'm going to Romania because I think it will be a better place for me and I will be more free to do the things that I do.
Well,
he said that.
He could say that, but not free to commit crimes, right? He's not saying he committed crimes and he shouldn't be liable. He's denied all these allegations.
Sure, he denies the allegations, but the underlying conduct that caused him to be investigated in the UK, he felt he would be more able to engage in Romania without facing problems with law enforcement.
Let me ask you this. So even the Tate's lawyer told media that the raids, they were legal, said the raids were legal under Romanian law, but they're unfounded. So how do they fight against this?
Well, they're going to fight against this by attacking the evidence. And they're going to try to show that while some of the conduct may not be, morally acceptable to many people around the world, many people in Europe and the United States, that it is not illegal. It doesn't violate a law. Remember, we're in a civil law system. And so you have to show specifically that the letter of the law has been violated in order to be convicted of a crime in a civil law system. And they're going to attack that. They're going to attack the victims who are going to be witnesses. They're going to attack their credibility. And part of Andrew's defense also is that he's being targeted because he's wealthy, that these are women that are trying to go after his money. He'll also be saying he's being targeted for not being politically correct and that this is a limitation on his free speech. That is going to be the defense as well.
He, I believe, posted a video where you can see him leaving the Romanian courthouse, speaking to the press, and he says, I've been nice, I've been patient, I've played the game, but they busted my house again and now come along saying there's 35 victims. And then he went on to say that 30 of these people, who are named 30 women, have come with statements in his defense. Now, that's him saying that. What do you make of that statement?
Well, those are the things that are going to be sorted out in a trial, right? He's probably making claims that are exaggerated, but it's also possible not all of those witnesses are really witnesses against him. And both sides, the government and Andrew Tate and his brother, are playing the media here. And a trial is supposed to sift through all of that and get to the facts.
By the way, Romanian police, they came out with a statement saying, we make it clear that during the entire criminal process, the investigated persons benefit from the procedural rights and guarantees provided by the Code of Criminal Procedure, as well as the presumption of innocence. There is a presumption of innocence in Romania as well, right? Even though, like we said, the investigative process is a little bit different, there is still a presumption of innocence under Romanian law?
Absolutely, yes.
And how does it work in terms of, the best that you know, how does this new development affect the current charges that Andrew Tate and his brother face? And is it possible that this came about because they were currently investigating them for the current charges that this came? I mean, something must have happened. There must have been some event between when they were first arrested and now for this raid to happen, right? If they had knew about it when they first arrested them, there probably wouldn't have been a need for this. Unless there was a development in between that time or in their investigation they found out something else, right? Because we don't know exactly what they were looking for or what happened, but why do you think this is happening now to them, and how do you think it's going to affect them moving forward?
It sounds to me, reading between the lines, that this new investigation relates to new conduct or activity that happened after the charges were made against them in Romania in the first case that is currently pending in Romania. Now, how that was discovered, it's not clear. Maybe it was discovered as part of the investigation into the older crimes, or maybe there's surveillance on the brothers. Certainly, they're being watched more closely. Maybe they have informants that are able to go in and out of the compound of the brothers. There's all different ways that this evidence could have been collected.
And talk to me about the seizure of the property, because the New York Post is reporting that a slew of luxury cars were towed away from their Romanian home, a Ferrari, Lamborghini, Mercedes-Benz, McLaren. Not clear, though, if the cars belong to the brothers. But how does that seizure work?
You know, I also read that article, and it's very interesting. Three, really expensive vehicles, 2 sports cars were taken, and without a judgment against them, it's not clear to me why they were taken, and that may be a peculiarity of Romanian law that they're able to take such assets. Perhaps they have to satisfy a bond in Romania. I'm not entirely clear what the basis was for those to be taken.
And now the Tates, as you said, they've emphatically denied the allegations against them. In fact, Andrew Tate told reporters after his most recent arrest, quote, 2 years, no victims, no pictures of victims. The case falls apart and this all happens again. What I've done wrong, who knows? It's certainly not human trafficking. Is it strange that we don't have a full sense of the evidence against him in Romania?
Well, again, that's what Andrew Tate said, but he may be exaggerating, and the government isn't going to just put their case out there for the public, right? They're building a case. It's strategic not to reveal everything that you have. I'm quite sure there is some evidence. People can run afoul of human trafficking without knowing that they're committing a crime. If they're luring women across borders from one country to another under false premises to get them to do something that might be legal, that could in fact be illegal under trafficking laws.
And by the way, going back to what you said about the UK, their legal troubles, they don't end here in Romania because a Romanian court has agreed to extradite the Tates to the UK because there were warrants there for their arrest. They were issued over sexual and physical abuse allegations that stemmed from incidents back in 2012 to 2015. The condition is, though, the Romanian case has to conclude. The legal proceedings in Romania have to conclude before they can be sent back to the UK. How does this development affect that?
Right. So Romania could make a choice, right? If they wanted, they could defer to the UK. Those charges were actually, relate to earlier in time conduct. So they could have allowed the brothers to be extradited to the UK to face charges in UK first. But most countries do what Romania did, which is if they have a crime that they're investigating that occurred in their country and the defendants are in their country, they're going to keep them to make sure they face justice in their country first. So what this means for the brothers functionally is even after everything that they're going through in Romania is over, it's not over, because then they're likely going to be extradited back to the UK. And in the UK, the laws are different, and they're going to have to face justice there. That means a different set of lawyers. They're going to have UK lawyers to defend them there. They might be incarcerated pending their trials in the UK. So this is going to be a long nightmare, a legal nightmare for both brothers.
And think about it like this, right? They haven't even been hit with a new set of charges in Romania. Not saying they will, not saying it could happen, but that will delay the Romanian proceedings even more. And that actually, in a way, could weaken the UK case, because a longer a case goes by, it will make that case, the ability of prosecutors to prove it. I don't care what jurisdiction you're in. Depending upon the laws, but I would imagine it would make it a tougher case in the UK when it eventually happens. Whether it's a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, it all depends upon what happens in Romania.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, evidence can get stale, witnesses' memories, get foggy. And so the longer out from the incidents that occurred that are being prosecuted, the harder it is to get a conviction. But they're not going to have a statute of limitations defense because the charges were filed in
Correct.
the UK. So that tolls the statute of limitations.
Right. It doesn't matter. It's already been happening. They've already been charged. So it just matters when trial happens, because sometimes you don't have trials for a long time. But it's interesting. Very serious allegations against them. We'll see what these new raids, what results from it, and what the investigative authority in Romania is looking into. But just another development regarding the Tates. David Tefuri, thank you so much for coming on. Good seeing you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.